So we just got brand new Old God Whispers directly from the War Within beta. There's a fish that generally symbolizes old gods that transforms into an octopus and swims away with a leviathan while at the same time implanting void whispers into our mind. It talks about how the old god blood that is in Kazalgar is alive even though the old gods are seemingly gone, and the blood remains and remembers. It remembers the wars of the past and the wars that are to come. Further hints and a mural tie this very closely to the mysterious fifth old god that we will encounter soon. Is the Titan facility Ul'dah's under Kazalgar, and will we discover a new old god prison? Could the old gods have been pooling their blood here, and the mural represents the ultimate creation that is supposed to awaken Azeroth, which is why the mural looks like N'Zoth and Y'Shaarj combined. Let's take a look at this new quest and all the new information because it's super interesting. Actually playing WoW on your phone is now possible with Awesome, this video sponsor. It allows you to control your desktop from your phone completely free, which is perfect for checking in on your WoW characters when you're away from the keyboard. It's super easy to use, just click my link in the description, download the PC and the phone app and just connect them. The free version is great as you can control your desktop, but the real deal is the game version with custom keyboards for various games such as WoW with great FPS and sound as well. Make sure to use my code DORAN to get 7 days completely free, only for the first 200 people. They also got a smart plug to turn off your PC at any time, as well as hot sales with up to 40% off on Pro and game versions. Check out Awesome. So by this point you've definitely seen the mural from Azj-Kahet, the lowest most layer of the new zone Kazalgar, and it is really one of the most interesting new lore we had gotten from the World Soul Saga so far. It is a very detailed picture that you can discuss really for like 20 minutes if you want to get into all the details that you can find here, but by all accounts it is a completely new figure that we had never seen in the past. Some people say this is N'Zoth, some people say this is Y'Shaarj, but we had seen the artwork of both of them in the past from multiple angles, and the descriptions, we know everything about them, and none of them really match this figure. I mean, certainly they share some of the characteristics, but it's definitely not them. Furthermore, people have been saying that this figure is Xal'atath, and this is outright not the case because we got dialogue from Alleria in the beta that literally confirmed that Xal'atath is not an old god, like straight out said it. You could say that this figure could still be Xal'atath, it doesn't have to be an old god, but seeing that we already saw 4 old gods and one experiment that created something similar, it's pretty safe to say that this figure definitely appears as an old god. Now this leads us to a really interesting side quest we had just gotten from the War Within beta that is much like this entire mural. Interesting on first glance, but even more interesting when you really dig into it and really examine all the details. So it starts off as something seemingly so irrelevant, like some tiny fishing side quest to loot a Cobis, which is this new creature from Kazalgar that looks like a cave murloc or like a mix between a murloc and a Jinyu. So once you loot them, you find this little fish called the gasping fish whose dehydrated lips seem to move, wanting to whisper something. Now, as I said, you would think this is some little fishing side quest, but this seems like one of the biggest foreshadowings so far from the beta. Now, if you're familiar with Old God lore and specifically N'Zoth, you wouldn't take this fish symbolism lightly. You might remember it was his fish form that essentially created the Naga and Queen Azshara. So the fish starts whispering inside your head, which obviously means this is not just a regular fish, and it begs you to take it to the water. After this, it gives you a quest to collect sunless shards from the Cobis, these little dark crystals that reflect no light, and also to gather insight on them from their shrines. Now, as we start approaching these shrines, we get really interesting dialogues from the so-called Abyss Whisperer, which are essentially brand new old god whispers. First, it says, "They are gone, but their blood remains. The blood remembers." I previously talked about this in regards to the 5th old god and how he might be alive. It is really no secret, it's no speculation that Xal'atath is collecting old god blood in Kazalgar. This was literally confirmed by Blizzard. Recently, in dialogue, it was also confirmed that this old god blood is in a way alive. It isn't just blood, it's very potent and powerful. According to some of the interviews, we know the old gods are defeated, but they also said old gods can't exactly be killed as void creatures. They don't really work like we do. So what the quote says is they're gone, but the blood remains and remembers. The best guess is that the old gods are alive through this blood. Also, a super quick throwback to some of the things we saw from the past. You definitely heard about Selenite from Wrath of the Lich King, which is literally the blood of Yogg-Saron in Northrend. It was incredibly potent, it corrupted minds, it was all over Northrend, even though Yogg-Saron was not exactly tied directly to it. Furthermore, remember Pandaria? I mean, Y'Shaarj's blood spilled all over Pandaria when Aman'Thul pulled him out, which created this entire shock corruption. And then we had the Heart, which Garrosh threw and essentially just destroyed the entire zone. So old god blood is not just blood. It's definitely not simple blood that just fuels the body. It's potent on its own. It is alive in a way. It's like a magic of its own. An even more interesting thing right now that we can also consider is whether Azerite really even is Azerite or whether there was the blood of Cthulhu, as remember, it started leaking from the Sword of Sargeras, which is exactly where Cthulhu was rooted in. Magni told us this is the blood of Azeroth, which is why we know Azerite is the blood of Azeroth, but remember, the King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. Also, it's almost certain right now that Magni did something really dumb as he got us to drain the artifacts, one of the artifacts being Xal'atath, into the wound. He was also the speaker for Azeroth, but now that Azeroth is actually awakening and giving these visions, he apparently lost his form and no longer hears anything, making it very likely he was duped by Xal'atath this entire time. However, the point remains, old god blood is insanely powerful. Now, we get two other quotes from this Abyss Whisper. Swim in these dark waters and be changed by them. No light shines in these depths. And dark blood rains from the false sky. It tastes of war past and wars to come. So just to give quick little context here, the blood thing is supposedly right around where the new race Heronir are, which is the lowest most layer of Khazakar, and there is a very popular speculation that there is yet another layer, a new zone that we will soon discover. We think this is the case because Blizzard said they won't give us the full map of Khazakar until after release because it would spoil everything. Also, almost certainly this entire zone is what remains of the World 3 Eluna here that was planted upon Old God corruption. In the lowest most layer, there are giant roots, and you would imagine this blood would be right a little bit under the roots. No light shines in these depths kinda confirms how this is pure void, and also the false sky they're talking about is the crystal in Hellfall. The light crystal functions as a sky in the sun, even though this is all in the dark and far under the ground. The dark blood raining from the false sky probably says about the crystal changing into the void, which happens as we quest through the zone. As they say, it tastes of war past and wars to come. However, this quest gets even more interesting. So once we return to the fish, he uses these crystals to create a lure in order to ambush the Kobis, and this lure just starts doing void damage, obviously. Then the fish asks us to take it further out to the sea as the exposure to the light had weakened it, so it needs to get to the darker waters. As we let it go, it shifts from fish into another illusion, into an octopus-like creature, and as we get further away, an abyssal leviathan arrives to claim it. They both swim away, and we get another whisper, another warning. Our cooperation is at an end. Now I return to the sea beneath the sea, away from this accursed star. Bring its lights to our depths, and we shall be your crushing end. Let us not meet again. The thought of your drowned corpse displeases me. So, just to give a little bit of context here, the sea beneath the sea is referring to Hellfall, as there is actually a giant sea in the zone, but Hellfall is underground itself, beneath the actual ocean of Azeroth. However, I think there is more to this sea than we think, and it's definitely either infested with old god blood, or there is a passage somewhere at the sea floor leading into the dark water where no light shines. Now, all this is without a doubt old god related. First of all, the fish, but these octopus creatures and the Leviathans are almost always connected to old god minions. They're obviously referencing this blood, meaning it is going to be a huge story point in the War Within, but where is it really coming from? Why is there old god blood under Khazakar? So we got a few interesting scenarios we can consider. We know for certain that the Void goal is to awaken Azeroth, and we were told that before the Titans intervened, the Black Empire almost succeeded and turned Azeroth. Could it be possible that this was some sort of the epicenter, like some sort of a gathering ground where the old gods making sacrifices and pooling their own blood one by one inside this zone in order to complete the mission? Some people have stated that the fifth old god might not be a new god, but all the old gods gods combined, which is why he looks like N'Zoth and Y'Shaarj combined. So even though we defeated them, they're still alive through their blood, and now they can all arise into one giant mega old god. It is possible that they were supposed to pool their blood and create one monstrosity that would complete the awakening. However, there is definitely a little bit of a far-fetched theory. At the same time, this is very likely the 5th old god. I don't really want to repeat myself. You can check out my previous videos for all the details, and we got a lot of documents, but there is evidence supporting the 5th old god existing. A document in Dragonflight said that the Titans lied when they said they cleansed the old god corruption. They imprisoned them, but they hid something beyond the waves. It is possible that they couldn't get to this 5th old god as he's so far deep down. First, they tried planting the World Tree Luna here to try to cleanse it, but then ripped it out and attempted to seal the zone, which is why we never really heard of this island before. Also, it could be yet another old god prison as well as just a different one. Remember, there is a Titan facility that was referenced on multiple occasions called Ul'dah, and we had never seen this place until now. It could be the prison of this 5th old god. The blood it is spilling could be similar to Serenite. Yogg-Saron was imprisoned the whole time, but his blood was all over Northrend, and he had quite a bit of influence over the entire zone. Now, yet another possibility is that this old god was defeated. There was old Xal'atath Legion lore that referenced that the old gods battled between themselves during the Black Empire and possibly defeated one of their own. It is possible that the 5th old god was defeated in the ancient past in this place, but he remains alive through the blood that is pooled in the zone. Regardless, something big is definitely going to be happening soon. We got a mural, we got these mysterious fish, we're already getting mysterious old god whisperers. There is apparently another zone under Kazakar that might soon be revealed, and a surprising amount of old god blood is here as well. Xal'atath is gathering this blood, using it to start Midnight, so at the moment we got about 10 different hints that are certainly going to manifest as soon as 11.1 or 11.2, and we really might be in for a brand new old god. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on Chronicle Volume 4 and the new information by clicking on the screen, and also an ancient training on my second channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!